Hello and welcome to the Strode Politics and Economics podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the new right. We're going to be splitting this discussion into 4 different sections. We're going to be doing human nature, the economy, state and society. Today we have Abi.
Hello.
Aaron.
Hello.
And me, Khai. So our first topic point is going to be human nature. And human natures, the new right, have quite a similar view on human nature. We're all selfish, egoistic, we are very self-reliant, and I believe we can be self-reliant. And I think there's stuff like welfare is holding us back from being self-reliant. And I have a reasonably cynical view of human nature. We're generally, without capitalism or with capitalism, both, we are, selfish, not necessarily communitarian. We're generally communitarian when it's pragmatic and it suits us and benefits our own gains and goals. But overall, I do think we are quite negative when it comes to human nature. Does anyone want to respond to that? And we're going to Abi.
Hello. Gets a big surprise. I disagree. I think human beings are naturally communitarian. We are pack animals. We will literally pack bond with anything. Have you read the stories about people pack bonding with their Roombas? Because they're very common. The automatic hoovers.
Yeah, I know what a Roomba is. I don't know what pack bonding is.
You're forming a relationship with it. Like, you come to care about it.
Do be sussing, but...
No, it's true. Roomba, the company who produce them, have a policy of if yours breaks, you send it to them, and they fix it and send it back, because people get so attached to their Roombas.
Epic.
Also, one of the first signs that anthropologists found of human society was a mended femur, which shows that this person, tens of thousands of years ago, who broke their leg, was taken care of well enough that their leg mended, which shows that we do care about each other, even when there's no... What benefit do we get from that? There's no benefit from looking after someone who could possibly, lead the group to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger or stepped on by a woolly mammoth. I think literally scientifically, there is scientific evidence that we are communitarian animals, and humans die without social interaction. So we're not suited for total individualism. We need social interaction. It's what we're social animals. It's science.
I think, however, as society has developed and we've developed norms and values, we have developed a self-reliance, especially with the advances in the economy. We have developed that self-reliance. One can work and be single their whole lives and still, live, because our economy and our society has developed to a point that is possible.
Yeah, but you'd be really depressed.
Yeah, well, obviously.
You know that humans go crazy if they don't see green things? We get really sad if we don't live around plants. They put plants on the International Space Station.
Well, yeah, that's...
Little, fun fact.
But it is possible, and we have developed selfishness, and you can see selfishness rooting from even before capitalism emerged in the time of Calvinism in France, because that was essentially the start of capitalism. We see, raiding by, Mongolian hordes who were barely societies themselves. They still raided, they still stole. The selfishness has been there throughout history. That everyone's selfish, including communists, especially communists. But everyone is selfish, and that it has been there for a long, long time. And egoistic, we're all very, very egoistic, especially in modern society, when we have social media and stuff like that. Is all about the personal self, how we prove to others that we've succeeded, how we prove to others that we've advanced. And we're going to Aaron.
I just like to say agree in part with both of you. I think that both philosophies have credence to human nature. I think I'd probably agree more with Abi than I do with Khai. But I think that humans are naturally logical and rational beings. And I think the organic development of the state is just proof of that, because at some point we decided and knew that creating a democratic state would make everyone better off. And just the creation of the United States is proof of that, and the evolution of our constitution is proof of that, because people are working towards, logically and rationally, something better, rather than just being ruthlessly individualistic, like Khai says.
Well, no, I don't think we're ruthlessly. I'm not a traditional conservative. We're not ruthlessly individualistic.
We're not going to all murder each other.
Nasty, brutish, and short.
Yeah. But I do think there is an essence of, obviously, individualism, because, you know, we all want the best for ourselves and our families. But when you talk about the United States, that was out of pragmatism. That was out of a search for liberty. Taxation without representation, and as Robert Nozick and I see it, taxation in the first place. It's stomping on liberties. It's unnatural to human nature to have a giant state such as the United Kingdom was back then, or, you know, lots of states are now, coming in, taking all your money, and without giving you anything in return. It's that breaking of Burke's and Locke's social contract. The state was taking without giving. They broke the social contract, and that started the American Revolution. And I think that's why that happened, out of pure pragmatism and the search for liberty.
But did the French Revolution not also happen out of pragmatism, because the absolute monarchy was detrimentally affecting everyone else in the country?
Yeah, I agree. It did start out of pragmatism, but it was hijacked and, you know, steered massively off course
by crazy people who just wanted to cut off heads,
also known as communists.
I mean, the guy who started the French, one of the like framers of the French Revolution, had his head cut off during the French Revolution. So
yeah,
that's not a good way to do a revolution, folks.
Exactly. It's what is who was the conservative revolutions? Was that Oakeshott? It might have been. I think it was Oakeshott. But yeah, conservatives' revolutions work. But when you tear away the institutions of, you know, the bare bone minimal state, you do get anarchy. Shall we move on to?
Okay.
Can I just say,
yeah.
Going back to what Khai said about that the US was created out of pragmatism and a search of liberalism, that is just surely just a prime example of just the logical, rational nature of human beings, that if something isn't working for them, they overthrow the current status quo and then create something better.
And also the fact that you're a hypocrite because you say you don't like pragmatism.
No, I don't mind pragmatism. It's just I'm not a one nation conservative, but it's pragmatism to achieve selfishness. They pragmatically wanted to get lower taxes and get rid of taxes so they could be more selfish with their money. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I see.
Like they were pragmatically overthrowing a heavily taxing government so they could be taxed less, so they could be more individualistic, more self-reliant. I don't know what the word is, and you know, that liberty is pragmatically we search for liberty. We don't search for liberty when it's not pragmatic. That's why you didn't have a revolution every 5 minutes back in like the medieval and dark ages, because people understood that pragmatically we needed that, you know, giant state that Hobbes wanted, because otherwise you were probably just going to starve to death.
I mean, you said they starved to death anyway, but you know,
a little bit less.
The state didn't have any welfare back then, so I mean, they just had to starve.
I mean, welfare started truly in probably like 1603 with Elizabeth I's Poor Law.
Yeah, and what, like the churches were.
Yeah, I mean, there was always like
for
monasteries and stuff that would deliver welfare in scare quotes.
Yeah, communist monasteries. Yeah.
I think that's an oxymoron. I don't think you can have a communist religion unless you consider communism itself a religion, which, I mean, you know, it kind of is a little tiny bit. Cult of personality.
Yeah.
But that's fascism as well.
That's true. Yeah.
or
That's any extremity.
there's any Democrat government, yeah.
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden, cult personality. But we'll move on. We'll do state next. Role of the state.
Okey doke.
So I'll go again since I'm the one that everyone's arguing against. Yeah, I don't like big states. Big states are not epic. Big states are a tipping point of tyranny, and I know that's very libertarian to say, but you can't have a big state. Big states should not be intruding on your personal lives, should not be intruding on your private property, which is why the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights, you cannot have troops lodged in your houses. That's an echo.
The First Amendment is freedom of speech.
No, for the first one of the Bill of Rights was you can't have troops stationed in your houses. No?
No.
Which one is that?
The Fourth Amendment, I think.
Yeah, first was freedom of speech.
Yeah, first is freedom of speech.
Whatever one that could not have.
Like, that was their number one thing.
It's one of
Kai.
them. It's one of them.
Is one of them.
I'm
One
pretty
of the
sure it's
Bill of
4.
Rights.
It's 4 or 5.
One of them. Was an.
We're not American. Can you tell?
Was one of the most, was quite important at the time. It showed that governments could not intrude on your private property, and that's one of the big roles of the state, is maintaining order so we don't all murder each other, and protecting private property and protecting private wealth because it's private. I'm not a neoconservative, which is a really hypocritical stance to have, in my opinion.
Agreed.
I am a neoliberal. States should not intrude on your economic freedom. They should also not intrude on your social freedom. Yeah.
Do you believe that, such in the way that in order for your social freedoms to be maintained, there should be legislation? So, a law legalizing gay marriage, that's necessary to maintain your social freedoms.
Yeah, but in all fairness, to me, it shouldn't have been illegal in the first place, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, but that's because you're not crazy.
There should be, the Constitution in America, there should just be, you cannot legislate against freedom of speech, cannot legislate against marriage and stuff like that, because it's not the state's responsibility. Stuff like marriage tax allowance, I'm a massive fan of, 10 out of 10, because I like family cohesion, especially when learning sociology is shown to be very, very, any family, nuclear or not, is very, very important to me especially. But I do think that these social institutions are important, but I don't think that it should be mandatory. It shouldn't be mandatory to be married when having kids or something like that. And I feel like the role of the state, if expanding, shouldn't expand in the first place, apart from disasters like COVID or war or communists or something.
You see, that's where you diverge from One Nation conservatives. No, not One Nation, New Right, sorry. Generally, because they're very ideological and very dogmatic, in that it is never right to expand the role of the state. Whereas One Nation are generally the more with the go with the flow kind of conservatives.
Yeah. But it depends what you consider the flow. Because the 2008 financial crisis, we bailed out the banks. They're doing the same thing now, and they're not going to stop.
No.
If we had let it collapse, yes, there would have been massive economic downturn, but we would have had new and different financial institution.
Maybe they would have learned a lesson.
Exactly.
Instead of actually just taking our money and then buggering off and doing
going
it all again.
In, the Caribbean or something.
The, what is it, Panama? That there are tons of offshore accounts in?
It's Panama and one other place as well, I can't remember. But and Robert Nozick's taxation is theft and welfare is slavery is absolutely correct in every way. Taxation you should not be taxed on being a functioning member of the economy. That's ridiculous. That's why I absolutely despise income taxes as a principle and as a tax. And welfare, all welfare does is stop you fighting for those higher wages. Welfare stops unions mattering. Welfare stops people from being more economically active with their bosses, because they're like, oh, I don't need to ask for a promotion or a pay rise because welfare will cover it. And that's just a
That's
massive
not
drain on public
logical.
finances.
Because
It's not
before we had
logical.
welfare, we didn't have before we had welfare, workers were still in destitute positions, and it took the Industrial Revolution for unions to form.
Unionisation,
And then
yeah.
even then, we still needed state intervention to ensure equality and fairness.
Yeah,
Like
but
the state had to take action.
And the state also continually tried to break the unions.
yeah, because they were very, very conservative at the time, and
Yeah.
they were all run by like all the lords and the peers and everyone were big businessmen.
True.
But the thing is
It's not logical.
it is logical
No,
because
no. What I'm trying to say is welfare. Welfare, I can see where you're coming from. It stops you from blah blah because the system is really, really terrible.
Makes you
it's
complacent.
not a bad system. You are the
Yeah, it
system.
makes-
If you're complaining about the system, you're complaining about yourself.
Yeah, whatever. But
I'm right.
but thinking like oh, I'm not going to go for that position because welfare will cover it. It's not logical. It doesn't make any sense. If you can get more money from a promotion than you currently getting with your wages and your welfare, then just go for it. It doesn't make any sense to not, even though you're being given your wages are being topped up by the government. It doesn't make any sense if you can get that promotion to not go for it.
The thing is okay. Then why did the £20 cut to
Universal credit.
universal credit matter? If people understood that they were that close to being destitute, why did they not go for, like, say, I'm on the verge of being homeless and I've got a family, I need a wage, or I'm going to a different job that pays me more or is willing to pay
because
me more?
they don't
Well,
have the
because-
qualifications or the
yeah.
ability
Yeah, but
to
the
do
thing
Not
that.
is-
everyone is able to when it
Yeah,
affects...
but the thing that's where unions come in, and I know it's very odd for a conservative to not mind unions. I really don't. I think they should be a bit stronger. But the thing is you do not have that unionizing because people think I have welfare to cover me. I do not need to risk my job by going to my work and say let's unionize. Because the thing is when you have that comfortableness and you have that complacency to live on welfare, you do not argue for higher wages. You do not argue for that because you're worried that your complacent position will be lost.
I see.
And that-
I see your point.
But I don't know anyone who isn't aspirational like that. I don't know anyone who is in a situation like that who doesn't think, I want a better life and I want to do better for myself. Like, it's not like they haven't asked to be in that position and they don't want to be in that
And it
position.
affected the poorest people in the fact that people suddenly like that didn't have that money, and a lot of them won't have the ability to get a better job. If you're a family who has, if you're, you have a child who is clinically extremely vulnerable to COVID, and the only way that you could supplement that £20 is to go and get a job in a supermarket that would require you to be in contact with people all the time, you then up that risk of your child catching COVID and dying. It's incredibly, there are always circumstances, there are always externalities that will, other than welfare, that will hold you down, and the universal credit cut just accentuated the issue. It affected the poorest of the poor, and that's never okay.
That's because of taxes. It's because of taxes. VAT tax, stuff like that stops you from using
But you're not in opposition to VAT, are you?
I'm in opposite. Well,
It's not.
In-
It's not
in my-
taxes.
in-
Needs some form
yeah,
of
I know.
income.
I know it needs some
It's
form
not
of income.
taxes. It's who you tax. That's the problem.
It's taxes in the first place. Any taxes is a welfare loss to society.
Well, I mean,
And that
I think
doesn't
that
mean
private
welfare.
property
I'm
is
not
theft,
getting.
so-
I'm not getting any richer because Elon Musk is getting richer, at all.
Yeah.
at all. I mean, and don't talk about trickle down economics, because
Because it does work.
we
It
tried
doesn't
that
and
and
it does
doesn't
work.
work.
We
It does
tried
work.
it. It doesn't work.
Because
It does
why
work.
is it that a huge proportion of the wealth is so concentrated in the top 1%? If
All
trickle
you
down
get-
economics worked, that wouldn't be the case.
All you get when you deregulate or you bail out the banks is you get bifurcation. You get rich people getting richer and
You
you
get
get poor
monopolies.
people getting poorer. You get monopolies. You get oligopolies. This is how you get the Russian oligarchs.
All right,
Exactly.
let's look at actual new right economics. New right economics. What did Hyman? I keep calling him Hyman. Hayek and Friedman. But I merged them together. Okay. Hayek and Friedman.
Yeah, that's what
They
you're going
both
for.
said the role of the state in the economy is to break monopolies.
Mm.
The issue is that you have one nation conservatives and you have traditional conservatives who are made like Johnson, who are pretty much being doled out.
Pragmatists.
No, they're not pragmatists.
They're
They're
pragmatists.
they're getting doled out
But
by
to
these
themselves.
companies, like you saw with the Russian things. $3 million to the Conservative Party from Russian backers.
Yeah.
That's not pragmatism. That's
No, that's individualism. It's
Yeah,
selfish.
exactly.
And these people are supposed to work in our best interest. So surely, if everyone is individualistic and egoist, then we should have like an anarchical state, because no one in power can work for the best interests of everyone.
It is difficult with
Especially not
and-
Boris Johnson.
and that is why I support small states, because these usually ill-equipped, unfit people to be in positions of power are in positions of power. They should not have that much power. And the role of the state was to break these monopolies, to ensure competition. If new right economics, neoliberal economics, was properly conducted within economics, we would not have companies like Apple, we would not have companies like Amazon, because they are monopolies. And the sole stipulation that Milton Friedman put in his book was that the state had to break monopolies. We're not doing that.
But then surely, like, when I mean, that's state intervention in the economy.
It's
Yeah, but
infringing
no,
on rights, isn't it?
No, it's not, because
It
New
harms
right-
others. It's
New-
you're allowed to, your freedom is your freedom as long as it's not harming someone else. And monopoly harms people.
that and the free market economics require competition, and once you lose that competition, you end free markets. Right now, the entire globe is not in a free market because of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, because that has locked off some of the supply from the demand. We're not in a free market at the moment, so right now I don't mind state intervention, because the free market has been disrupted.
Petrol is so expensive.
Just get a horse, lol.
I mean, I could. I ride. I could get a horse.
Exactly.
I
problem
I
solved.
would live longer
we-
than all of
wait.
you in an apocalypse.
Are we still on the? Are we on the estate or the economy?
State.
Well,
Well,
we
we
can't
kinda-
do.
Let's
gone into
merge
the
it.
economy.
Let's just have a anarchical debate where we don't have structure.
Should we go into the economy now?
Well, yeah, we're
Yeah.
pretty much on
So
it.
yeah,
anyway.
I was going to say
we're
we're
on it
basically
anyway.
already in it. Because I mean, I would come back to Khai and your minimalist state intervention in the economy, and I think it's necessary for the state to intervene in the economy. State interventionism is needed for equality and fairness.
Yeah.
But I know Abby might hate me for saying this,
Mm.
but overall, capitalism does work.
Yes. No. Weirdly, I agree with you. I'm a socialist, not a communist.
Capitalism does
Doubt.
work, and I think it's unrealistic to oppose a capitalist free market economy, provided that the free market creates wealth for the state to use for welfare programs and to better the lives of those who create the wealth within the economy.
What you have just described is state capitalism, which is communist.
One nation
No,
conservatism.
what you've just you've just said for the state. You've just said created wealth for the state, which is state capitalism, which is communist.
Yeah, the market creates wealth, and obviously with the wealthier people, you create a wealthier state. That's just how it works with taxes, etc.
Like a wealthier economy.
Yeah,
not a
wealthier
wealthier state.
economy.
I thought you meant like
no,
state.
no,
Like,
not exactly
State as in
directly.
country.
Okay,
as
yeah,
in,
that's
not
fair.
state
As a
as in
whole.
state.
And then
government.
the wealthier the people are, the wealthier the state will be, and then the better off people will be in general, provided that the money is going to the right places.
And we'll also have really good armed forces.
yes, of
Not
course.
that I care about that. Did you know that Grenada in the Caribbean has no military?
Neither does Iceland.
They're doing all right.
Both communists. And anyway, I can't remember what you said.
It was too good. It was just too good.
Yeah,
No,
you
I
just
knew
floored
you were
us, Aaron.
wrong. I just need to remember why.
I mean, my stance is effectively just a one nation conservative stance on the economy.
Yeah, the issue is when you create welfare, you make everyone poorer because you're increasing demand without increasing supply.
Not if you
And
tax, but not if you tax the right places and take money from the right places.
No, because if you tax at all, you're making everyone poorer again. You're you are de-incentivizing
if
hard
we're-
work. You are de-incentivizing education. You are de-incentivizing anything from happening in the
But
economy.
if any taxation, including VAT, is it's making people poorer, then why buy anything ever?
Yeah.
Because then you're going to be poorer.
People have to buy, but the issue is when you
Well, then why do we buy luxuries? Why is that a thing that an economy needs to
It's because
function?
thanks to the free market and thanks to low taxes, we've had the innovation capable. You see during the Thatcher and the Reagan era, you see huge amounts of innovation just because of low taxes.
You
Because
also
people
see-
knows I'm going to make a very large amount of money from my innovation because there is low taxes. I'm going to put more money into it. It's basic incentives. That's why places like Singapore, South Korea, Japan, they have low taxes and they prosper because of it, because high taxation doesn't work for anyone, because high taxation or any taxation in the first place is the cause of poverty.
I mean,
I know-
Japan had like a solid 15 years where they didn't have a military because the US were protecting them from the communists.
Like
so
you,
they,
yeah.
like me. So I'm going to invade Japan by myself. So they had that money that they weren't spending on national defense to put into their economy. They didn't have to tax people for the necessary funding to make an armed forces to defend themselves all on their own out over there in the ocean.
Yeah, then they spent it on welfare, and look at it now. 250% GDP to debt ratio, completely collapsing public finance sector because they do have welfare, because welfare is not good. It's amazing in the short term, I agree, and I don't want to get rid of welfare completely. I think obviously we should have welfare for disabled people who can't work. But the issue is
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
when you have welfare such as, child benefits, unemployment benefits, stuff like that,
Child benefits, what do you mean by that?
not school systems, like, you get tax release for the first 2 children you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
Dumb.
I know.
Because and you should disagree with it the most, because all you're doing is requesting people to reproduce the labor force. People will do that. They're not ready to have kids. People should be
No, I get that.
Yeah,
I do. But,
tax incentives should be focused at stability of family, not making a family.
making a family. But that's because they believe it's kind of ingrained in our society and in our brains for hundreds of years that family means kids. Like, that's just how people view it. So even when focused on family stability, it's, people have that innate reaction of like, oh yeah, husband, wife, 2.7,
2.1.
It's 2.4, isn't it? 2.4
2.1
kids
is to
and a
maintain a
dog.
population.
No, I mean, as in the average number of kids that people have is like 2.4 kids or something.
I think
It was
here
like
it's like
no, it
1.
was like a Honda advert in the 90s
Right,
or something.
no, right now it's 1.4. We're in a massive. All right, Ollie's searching it up because he's sitting there in the corner and he
Doing
wants something
nothing.
to do. Because he's too scared, because he knows he agrees with the new right, he just doesn't want to admit it.
can I just say about Khai's low taxes incentive? I do agree with that initially, because you need wealth to create wealth, and you just look at China's economic growth in the past 30 years. When they created the special economic zones, they deregulated certain cities on the coast, and then China's economy grew exponentially. Like, look at it now; it's at $13 trillion
Yeah, it's like
a year.
a fortnight economy.
Yeah,
It's great.
that's pulled hundreds of millions of people out of abject absolute poverty. That's the good things that capitalism can do.
Just
only
one
I
quick
just-
thing, we're at 1.6 births at the moment in the UK.
Wow.
Thank you, Ollie.
You know, that's the amazing thing that capitalism can achieve. Only I just think the state has a duty to regulate the extremities of that and to mitigate its negative
effects.
points. Yeah.
All right, so let's look at what happens when that occurs, shall we?
No, let's not. Shut up.
Right, house prices in the UK solely due to regulation, nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, that was Thatcher selling them off.
No,
surely.
no,
And
it's
also the regulations, but mostly that.
No, definitely not that.
No, I
that
think-
was
Yes, it was.
epic.
I
That
think
was
mostly-
so cool what
No,
Thatcher did
we
with the
need to
houses.
suspend
You can't even
Thatcher.
deny.
Suspend right to buy.
No, that
Exactly.
is
Yeah,
not
I
epic.
agree. I agree.
No. The regulations are the issue. The fact that every single different thing you build needs to be approved every step of the way by the council is ridiculous.
I mean, look at Grenfell though. Look at Grenfell. I mean,
Oh,
that,
that's not the regulation I'm on about. I obviously, don't want buildings burning down. I don't think anyone does, but Ollie.
obviously.
But
He's
I'm
an
talking about
arsonist.
area building regulation, because what happens now is someone will buy an acre for 100 grand.
Hmm.
Once they get planning permission, they sell that acre for £1 million. That is what causes high house prices.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
we
well,
should
I mean, I
have a
think-
German system. You say you can build a house here, or you could build a shop here. You go and build whatever the hell you want, as long as it doesn't collapse in 5 minutes or set on fire. That is,
I mean, that sounds about right.
yeah, that is. And look at China. Let's look at China then. The Chinese rail system, $750 billion in debt. They have done the communist Keynesian idea of slamming money at things and public works and all these other communist things, and it has bankrupted the railway system, bankrupted parts of Chinese airway system, the Chinese housing market, destroyed essentially 4 of the 5 major housing construction companies in China in restricted default. It's because when these state-owned communist,
Actually, communist this time.
actually communist, when you do that, you get uncompetitiveness, you get ridiculously high house prices. It just doesn't work. The state intervention doesn't work. Sometimes I agree it does work. Like
But I
When
think,
you have a desperate need to
when-
increase
when
demand.
crisis, it works.
but I think evidently it does, because China's economy is
it's fake.
mixed.
It's fake.
But it's
It-
mixed,
it
and
is
it's
fake.
completely
It's
completely
completely
based on
fake.
based on pragmatism though.
No,
They've-
it's not. It's
they've
absolutely
nationalized
not.
no, they've nationalized some sectors that work being nationalized, and then they've privatized others. Like there are
Okay,
state-owned.
does it work though?
I mean,
I
also,
think so.
Four out
Look
of-
Look at
the-
China's
all
economy
the
and
f-
its economic clout. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, but that's
It's just-
clout. It doesn't mean anything. China's economy is built on lies.
yeah.
Because the thing is 4 out of the 5 4 out of the 5 state-owned, the biggest housing companies restricted default because it doesn't work. Chinese railway system doesn't work. Nothing works when it's nationalized,
That's not true. But
apart from the NHS. I don't mind that.
also, we should renationalise our rail system.
No,
I
We
agree.
should.
No,
It's
we
a
should.
natural monopoly. Natural monopolies benefit from being
it's not a natural
nationalised.
monopoly
Yes,
though.
it is.
No,
I mean,
because
have you looked at how terrible it is since it was
natural
privatised?
natural monopolies are when there is a very limited innovational procedure to doing things.
Well, I mean,
Like
there is.
right now, metaverse or whatever it's called, the liberal thing,
No.
is
don't call
it's a
Meta liberal.
natural monopoly because it is very difficult to do. Yeah, do you get it? It's very difficult to
Yeah,
code
it's
an
a-
entire world.
It's a specific skill set.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the railway system, we have the know-how. Every firm that is in the industry has the know-how how to lay a
Build a
railway, build a train, stuff like that. It's not a natural monopoly because natural monopolies are like brand new industries.
Well, then why
BlackBerry
are they?
50 years ago, natural monopoly.
Well, then why are ticket prices so expensive?
It's because of regulation and taxes. If they were taxed less, they could, charge less. And if people were taxed less, that money wouldn't have been as important to them. It's because when you make 30 grand a year, you're not making 30 grand a year, you're making 23 grand a year because of the communist government taxing people too much. And the tax hike right now
Yeah, no, that is dumb.
Yeah, but any tax hike is dumb because it doesn't work. It's really bad.
Tax hikes for the rich aren't dumb.
Yeah,
No,
they are.
those aren't
They
dumb.
really are.
No,
They
I
are
don't
the
think so.
dumbest.
No.
And Ollie's shaking his head, and when you know Ollie agrees with something, you know it's wrong.
Progressive taxation.
because
No,
that's
all right,
where the
let's
money
look at
is.
let's look at the Netherlands, and they have the highest rate of progressive taxation in the world.
Yeah.
The most unequal nation in the world, in Europe, is the Netherlands. Portugal, very high progressive taxations, also more unequal than us. The inequality doesn't matter as long as there is no poverty. The issue is we have too higher taxes on the lower classes. We remove those taxes, we can, they will actually have purchasing power priority compared to the current market price. If we remove taxes on the rich, will have more investment in the economy. We'll have more rich people from abroad hoarding their money here, which is good for our banking systems.
Oh, great, just so we can bail them out again.
Yeah, no, I do. I didn't agree with bailing them out. Bailing them out was a communist idea. That's why the Brown government did it.
I mean, it
Well,
worked
it
in the
worked.
1920s.
And it
No,
did.
the New Deal collapsed. The New Deal ruined America completely.
Oh, I think
Destroyed
it
it.
built
Disagree.
it built America.
No,
It
it,
did.
ruined
Completely
it.
built America.
It did.
Ruined it.
It also actually did something for Native American rights for once, which was a bloody miracle.
A first.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh yeah, imagine not giving people rights. How not new right is that? It's almost as if it wasn't the new right. It's almost as if the new right would want to give them more rights and individual liberties. It's almost as if like the communists who first inhabited the Americas did it.
Oh, Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus was a communist.
Christopher
I didn't know
Communist.
You knew him.
I didn't think the Vikings had a
Communist.
Yeah, all
concept
them.
of communism.
No.
No, but the thing is traditional conservatives who were typically, the first American governments who oppressed these people. The new right is really cool if you're a neoliberal.
It's progressive socially.
It's progressive socially. Do whatever the hell you want. It's not my problem. And that's how I feel, apart from two very limited issues. Do whatever you want. Not my problem. Get on with your life, and I'll get on with mine. It's self-actualization, self-realization. You cannot realize oneself when you are being limited. That's why I hate the fact that some governments are limiting
it's
freedom
not-
of speech.
It's not just
Some
the state
governments.
that limits you. It's also society itself. And without state intervention to ensure equality of opportunity, then you will get limited by society.
Yeah, but that's because we're not individualistic enough. If we were more individualistic enough, we wouldn't care about what other people are doing. If you go around complaining what other people are doing, that is not new right. That is
No, I know,
communist
but not
and
but not
socialist.
everyone.
Because it's a group mentality, a collectivized mentality. It's terrible.
I know what you're saying, and obviously in an ideal world where everyone thought like Rand and Nozick, their philosophy would work because everyone would think like them, but people just don't. People are irrational, and people are selfish, and people are cruel.
Yeah, I agree. People are all those three things.
But people are also kind and communitarian
And rational.
Yeah, that
rational.
is another new right idea. Ayn Rand, society is led and progressed by exceptional people. Elon Musk, you can argue, even though
I don't like
I
Elon.
don't like him either. You can argue he is someone who is pioneering society with his
Definitely.
communist electric cars, and you can have people like Jeff Bezos.
But you
Is
can
he the
have-
Facebook? Who's the Facebook guy?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the guy with the
He looks
metaverse.
like a
Lizard
robot.
man.
Yeah.
robot or lizard.
Can be seen as pioneering society. Is a very new right idea.
But it's also, you can have exceptional people who are also terrible, and they're not good for society. Like Mark
Napoleon.
Zuckerberg, or Napoleon. Mark Zuckerberg.
All Karl Marx.
Facebook came about. You shut up. Facebook came about because Mark Zuckerberg designed a algorithm to rate the attractiveness of the women at Harvard University. That's how it came about. That's how he created Facebook.
It's very
That
weird.
is, I mean, like,
Do be
you
sussing.
know, Facebook
And-
and the creation of social media, extraordinary. Mark Zuckerberg, Berg, just a giant steaming
Weirdo.
piece of,
Frick.
Dung.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
this society rewards that.
Yeah, it does, and it shouldn't.
Okay, but that's not the government's place to decide. Because if the government decides, then it's really bad. Because then you have one person deciding instead of millions of people. And
An elected legislature.
okay,
deciding.
but all right, but you agree there is populism. There is people like Republicans in America
Unless there's our
who are like, they lie essentially to get people on side. Those are the people who you're trying to say, okay, make the decision on a social issue for millions of people. If the new right would disagree with abortion bans and stuff like that, because it's not the government's place.
I do, like, socially, I'm completely on board with the new right. It's just economically, I think they're just a bit too extreme.
There's just a bit too much freedom to starve.
Yeah, definitely. Negative freedoms, which is just,
You need both.
Not
You
my
need
cup of tea.
negative freedoms and positive freedoms.
definitely. You need
That's an interesting
equality of opportunity.
Yeah, just
That's-
not
that's-
a quality of outcome, because I would
Yes,
rather die
definitely.
than have a quality of outcome.
Economic inequality. Economic inequality is a complete fact of life. You are
Yeah,
never
I don't
going to have.
believe
it's how
everyone should-
economics works.
I don't believe
Definitely.
no one should be rich. I just believe that no one should be poor.
I don't mind the rich, as Blair said, as long as
Yeah.
they pay their taxes.
Exactly. And also, there aren't people like Jeff Bezos making ridiculous amounts of money off of the coronavirus pandemic, whilst some people...
Right, I have a massive issue with what you have just said.
Here we go.
Right,
Okay.
right, right.
Okay.
Right, I saw this post on a very liberal communist news outlet, which was
The Guardian.
said,
Kai doesn't read The Guardian. I think he spontaneously
That
combined.
doesn't surprise me. Kai, Piers Morgan has joined The Sun. I bet you'll be reading that now.
Yeah.
no, I just read The Economist and Financial Times,
Oh,
basically.
I read those two too.
Yeah, but I don't like you, so...
Yeah, of course.
He's now immediately going to stop reading them and start reading the Daily Mail.
yeah.
Move on to that.
Oh, God, my grandma read the Daily Mail. That was fun. Anyway,
The only time I've ever bought a Daily Mail was to put it in my cat carry basket to take it to the vet, so it
For a
didn't.
dare.
So it didn't pee all over the cat basket.
I think
And
that's
also
a
wants to set
pretty
it on
good
fire.
use of it, in
Yeah.
all fairness.
It's a rag.
Okay, right.
Don't read the Daily
Right,
Mail.
But anyway,
Let the
carrying
man
on.
speak. Let the man speak.
It's said that companies during the pandemic had made $3 trillion, and people workers, like the working class, had lost $2.7 trillion during the pandemic. That seems pretty bad, right? Not cool, not epic.
I mean, I guess it's slightly misleading.
I mean,
Who got it? No, hold on.
all
Let me
statistics
ask you
are
this.
misleading.
Who got you through the pandemic? The government or companies? Companies who somehow managed and bureaucratically supplied the demand of 7 billion people in lockdown. People who could not go outside under very limited circumstances they can. They got you through the pandemic, not the government. Obviously, there was furlough.
I'd say the government
No,
through furlough.
no, the companies played a...
No, because the companies are meaningless without wealth, and wealth comes from the government when it's in furlough.
Okay, but who was the one who maintained the supply? Companies, not the government. Companies, during the pandemic, we had stocked supermarket shelves. We had...
Apart from toilet roll.
Yeah, apart from that. We had... what do you call it? We had home deliveries during the pandemic. People would have starved without companies because they managed the pandemic while the government just slammed money at it.
Well, I mean, me and my mum, who works for the government as a teacher,
Communist.
technically, who is also clinically extremely vulnerable and disabled. We, for the beginning of lockdown, when my mum wasn't allowed outside for any reason, got several food boxes delivered to us by, I think it was the local government, but it's still government.
Okay, but who supplied the food?
Yeah, but that's just the global supply chain.
Yeah,
That's
the
not-
global supply chain is not governments, it's companies.
No, I know, but it's
Unless
it's,
the government
Even when
owns
the Suez
companies.
Canal
It's
was
partly-
blocked by a Weather boat,
Oh,
They-
wah, 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 wah.
a Weather boat, like a large boat.
Wah, 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 wah.
But then the companies aren't supplying us and keeping the supply chain going out of the good kindness in their heart. They're
Yeah,
doing it
because
to
they're-
just make money and profit.
Exactly.
So why?
And that is how everything in life works. What is a market? A market is not some superstitial thing in the sky that people on Wall Street run. Markets are demanders like us, consumers, and suppliers. That is it. We demand, they supply. That is how everything works. And because, thanks to the good old capitalist model,
No one's disputing that. No one's arguing against that.
we were supplied with everything we needed during the pandemic, thanks to the companies.
Apart from like PPE shortages that were contracted to companies that.
Yeah, but that was blatant
Didn't deserve
cronyism.
Yeah.
That was blatant cronyism.
Yes, it was, and I don't understand how Boris Johnson is still in power.
Yeah, I know.
See,
I really
that,
want to die.
Ukraine, the situation in Ukraine is good for Boris Johnson.
Because it
Because
just
it-
distracts.
Yeah, it saved him.
distracts.
It has saved him, I would admit.
It
Completely.
is terrible.
Let's
This is
go on
Putin's
to
plan all along.
Putin doesn't care about Boris Johnson. He's insignificant.
But
I don't
since we got-
understand why Zelensky wanted to Zoom call into Parliament, because they don't matter.
Yeah, but that was
That was cool.
He-
It was cool. Yeah.
It
Really-
was cool.
he-
However, I
no,
couldn't
he
stand to
larped
watch
at-
it.
He larped as Winston Churchill.
Lol. I literally couldn't watch it because the translator was so bad.
Oh my god, yeah, that was painful.
I
but
was like, please find a better translator. Jesus.
I think it's
I
because
know.
with a lot of those languages, it's the sentence structure's reversed. But
Just
anyway,
find a
since
better
we got
translator.
since we got a bit of time left,
How
let's
much,
go
how
on
much time have we got?
to 15 minutes, I think.
I have to go in 5.
Okay, so we'll do it quick. This bit's gonna annoy you. Let's do justice and law.
Interesting. Okay.
So-
Where is he going with this?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be pro Reagan here
Oh,
for a
God.
minute. Harsh prison sentences.
No.
No.
Yes,
No.
to affect the cost benefit analysis
No.
of crime.
No.
Works. Yeah.
Well, you say
Is it
public
worth
services.
it?
You say public services are a drain on taxes. Then why pack the prisons with convicts then?
Yeah.
Because if they have made that decision to
So
negatively affect others
So using your logic, someone has committed a crime, and then now you need to pay for their pay for them in prison
yeah.
for harsh sentences
but
for
like,
years.
not even just that. When it's someone's social circumstances affect how they behave. But behavioural economics, sir, it's a thing.
I
Yeah, I
completely
know
agree.
behavioural economics is a thing. I think that came through all 3 microphones.
You're welcome. But like, when someone's social circumstances affect how they behave, they don't have complete agency in how they behave.
They do.
And no, but it's
No,
it's
they
the
don't.
state's
It's
Right,
role.
not-
let me
moral
ask you this.
failing.
Let me ask you this. Imagine you're about to do meth. Okay?
All right.
Do you make a choice to take it? Yes or
you
no?
do.
Exactly.
But
the
we're
issue
not thinking
is
of the same types
Yes, but
of
that's
crime.
not. But that's
okay,
not.
murder.
and also-
Do you make a choice to murder someone? Yes, because unless you are clinically insane, before
Unless you are the
or
Joker.
Ollie
Yes, but
or
you got to put these in context because like with
No,
with
the
meth-
context
no,
doesn't
because
matter.
With meth and murder, you could be in a
That's a really
situation
cool song, Meth and Murder.
with meth and murder, the two scenarios that you gave, you can be in part of a society that you are exposed to that so much more than perhaps more privileged people, and you're taught different values, and you think in a completely different way because there are two polar opposite worlds that exist in each country. One where it's not acceptable to murder or take meth in any society, but in some parts of society you are exposed to that so much more. So that needs to be fixed before we give the less privileged harsher sentences.
Also,
Okay.
what if you've had a really terrible year? You're homeless. You're incredibly depressed with no access to treatment because the mental health services in this UK in the UK are so tragically underfunded, and the only thing you can possibly think to do is to drink yourself into a stupor or to take meth or to do something just to maybe numb the pain a bit. Is that maybe just a tiny bit not your fault?
Have some altruism, Khai.
That's the complete wrong use of the word. Right.
He knows.
Anyway, right. Let's look at this. Right. So I think we can all agree here your surroundings has an influence, yes?
Yes.
If you see your next door neighbour dealing drugs, you're going to be more prone to it, yes?
Yes.
Why not remove them from influencing other people?
Legalize the drugs.
No.
And then
No.
it's literally another way of removing that influence.
Well, no, because if Ollie was doing drugs, I might be more likely to do drugs. But if Ollie was in jail, I would understand, hey, he did drugs, now he's in a hellhole. I'm not going to do drugs. Because if you remove the negative influence through prison sentences, it works because it creates a society where young people, especially, grow up where they understand that people who did that, people who intentionally broke the law, intentionally made other people poorer by supplying drugs, they are in prison now and they will not be out for years. And that affects the cost-benefit analysis of criminals, because you must not allow people to break the law, no matter how petty it be, without suffering the consequences, because it always leads to us. It's like the gateway drug issue. If you steal stuff from a supermarket, you might start stealing bigger things like cars. It is a gateway. You must stamp it at the source. And
So you think
one
it's,
thing with
no,
you...
No, Khai, you think it's right to arrest someone for stealing something that they need to live, or that their children need to live? You think that is acceptable thing to do?
Obviously,
because
there
then
are
surely
circumstantial...
the cost-benefit analysis is that it is negatively affecting this family, to these specific people, to arrest this person.
There's always alternatives to crime. Crime is never one's last resort.
No,
Well,
but
so
I think
what
you
is
you
your
need to
last
get to the
resort
root
then?
of the you need to get to the root of the problem before you start punishing
Yeah, the root
people
of the
so
problem is
severely.
me, as for instance, as a child, seeing Ollie doing smack. That is that is the rooting issue.
I need to go. This is not over. We will continue this, and I will destroy you. Prepare to be destroyed.
Coming from a communist. All right, carrying on. Sadly, Abby had to leave us early, but anyway, what were we talking about? Just
Harsh sentences, crime.
oh yeah, so yeah, removing that influence at a young age will be a benefit to the newer generations. Removing that influence from them is a massive benefit, and I understand it's not great for the people who did the crime, but in no way you have to be really bad at making cost-benefit analysis to think that doing drugs is going to help you get out of poverty. It's hard. People who work hard get what they deserve. High wages. If they've done well in school, they get the high-paying jobs, high-position jobs, and that is how society should function. We should not have.
But that's not how it functions.
It is.
It's not.
It is.
It's not
Yes,
at all.
it is.
It's not
It-
at all
it
because
is.
people are disadvantaged from the moment they're born,
No.
and not from how hard they work. Like whether like your gender, ethnicity, your social background, anything. All of these factors completely impact your outcome in life. Not you can't just work hard and just succeed. It just does not work like
It
that.
does work.
No.
It does work. Yeah, you do need.
But you don't just work. You don't just work hard. You don't just work hard and then succeed. You need to work hard to succeed. But you know, success only comes with hard work. But hard work doesn't always come with success.
Yes, it does. If you work hard in school, people with higher grades are guaranteed to get, on average, are guaranteed to get higher paying jobs, because, and if I decide to, set fire to the classroom mid-lesson, obviously I'm not trying in my education, am I? If I purposely choose
obviously not.
to not go to school, not do my homework, not study for my exams, I am choosing my life. I'm setting it out then. The only predetermining factor is your willingness to achieve. And I agree, there are maybe a couple other things, like if obviously in a meritocracy you need meritocratic schools, so no one should walk into school on the verge of starvation.
Like, I mean, and
'Cause-
private schools as well.
But I'm fine with private schools.
But they
Absolutely fine.
put people at a
Okay,
disadvantage.
all right,
and
all right.
disproportionately,
Let's
and that's
take.
not through hard
Let's
work.
do
That's
this.
just through money.
Let's
Yeah.
look at this. We close all private schools.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not arguing
No,
for that.
but
I'm just saying
no.
that's
But
not.
let's. A lot of people do argue for it. We close private schools. How many more people are we going to have in our politics class? How much more ineffective is that going to make our teachers? Teachers struggle with, the 20 to 30 people that they have per average on class now. We close private schools, that's going to shoot up. We also bring in foreign talent, which is also incredibly useful, not only to our education system,
No, yeah, definitely.
but to the economy in general. And it's just really cool.
Yeah, but you agree. But you agree that private schools put the people who go there at an advantage.
Not particularly, no.
But how come is it that people from private schools are getting the highest paid jobs?
Because
proportionally in the
they're
country?
generally more strict at private schools. Yeah, it does. Private schools will typically have smaller class sizes, so yeah, that will be an influence because teachers will be able to be more individualistic with their teaching methods, be able to go around, sort it out one by one. But the defining factor of their achievement is strictness and obedience of the children, because private schools are much more strict than public ones.
Yeah,
because look at the stuff we can get away with here. It's ridiculous.
But I don't think that's the case at all, because I think like using your logic, hard work equals success. I don't think kids at private schools work any harder than kids at state schools. I just think they are given a better opportunity because of their wealth. And that is just an objective fact.
It's not an objective. It's a subjective fact. You're communist.
Statistically more likely. They're statistically more likely to succeed, not by virtue of their talent or working hard, but by virtue of their background. Simply because of that. Like, obviously, if you go to a place that has better facilities, better access, better teachers, smaller class sizes, you don't have to work as hard as a child at a private school to succeed. You could, because you've got the tools for it there already. If you go to a state school, you do have to work harder. So I think it's hard work doesn't equate to success. It's just not.
I completely disagree.
It's just not how it works.
It is. The thing is what with personally, when you have a lot of people complaining, is that it's because they haven't tried.
Yeah, no, that's true.
A lot of people don't try. A lot of people don't try. I could
definitely,
like we're
lazy as humans.
In my secondary school, more than half the class didn't actually do any work, and that comes down not to background. It comes down to personal choice, personal willingness to get into the system, to fit into the system, do your work, stick your head down.
But that is their fault. They're making a choice. But
exactly.
Then you're lucky enough to have parents that have instilled discipline into you to make the right choices. Not everyone's lucky enough to do that.
And that's why
I'm sure your parents care about your education.
No, my dad.
Well,
no.
I mean, have they not stressed
I don't
the
think I've
importance
ever
of it?
talked to my dad. My dad didn't even know what university I was going to. Bloody hell! But
But you understand the importance of it.
Yeah, and that's why I support stable family incentives such as marriage tax allowance, because it incentivizes people to stay together. When we have a 50% divorce rate, it's something like that now.
Yeah.
Like, no family is stable.
Yeah, that's increased stability though. It just makes it more.
It's increased choice, yeah, and I agree. We shouldn't have it so you're not allowed to get divorced. It's absolutely one's own choice, but we should put in these nudgeonomics. We should put in these little incentives to maintain stability, maintain social order, maintain social conceit.
Is that not state intervention in society, though?
No, that's nudgeonomics, which is something completely different.
But it's still state intervention.
It's not. It's state requesting. It's state influence. It's not influence. Intervention would be me going and saying, you can't get divorced. You're being beheaded because you missed class. That's state intervention. State influence is healthy eating campaigns. State influence is marriage tax allowance.
Soft paternalism.
Yeah, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I do think it's good, but I just think it's doesn't fit exactly with your new. It just doesn't fit exactly with your new right ideology.
It does, because the new right doesn't really mind state influence. That's why you had Margaret Thatcher go.
She wasn't she was a neoconservative.
Well, she's all
socially.
part of the new right. I'm a little bit of all the new right.
A little bit of both.
And you're, half Lib Dem, half communist. So, I don't think you can complain.
Well, I mean, economically right wing, I'd say.
Yeah. Orange Booker, the only acceptable Lib Dem. Anyway, we have reached an hour now, and I think that's all we got time for. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Aaron's communist.